Now then, people, and welcome back to the JUSTJOE Football Show and the return of the Leeds United Transfer Show featuring, of course, James Marshment from TeamTalk. We have absolutely loads to get through today. Just before we do any of that, please do like the video. And I have noticed this morning as well, I am less than 100 people away from 12,000 subscribers. So if you could do me a solid and subscribe to the channel if you are new, I want to get to 12k ASAP. So if you could do that for me, that would be great. The more likes we get, the more viewers we get, etc., etc. And share it all over your socials if you can. That's the intro bit done. James, how are you, fella? You all right?
I'm all right. Thank you, Joe. How are yourself?
Yeah, good, good. I'm excited for this show, mate. We have got absolutely loads to get through.
Plenty. Absolutely loads. Busy, busy, busy.
Yeah, it's been mega busy. And people, watchers of the show, they can see your full face today, James, as well, which is a plus, right?
I've eaten my vegetables this week. I've grown.
It was great seeing the comments coming in last week. But yeah, big up to everyone in the chat. Look, we'll start first of all with one we know is like 100%. Well, I say 100% loosely, 95 or maybe 99.5% done. Mark Rocker is currently having a medical at Leeds United. Are you happy with the signing, James?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if we get in the Mark Rocker we saw at Espanyol prior to his move to Bayern Munich, I think we're getting a really decent player there. He's pretty classy midfielder. He retains the ball well. He uses the ball well, and he keeps the midfield ticking over. In a sense, he's a bit like a Forshaw, but perhaps a bit more forward thinking. And I think for me, we desperately needed numbers in that midfield. And it's just, we talked about it last week. Why they didn't address that in January is beyond me. But, better late than never. Get some bodies into the midfield. Rocker's the first one. As it stands, he covers in for Calvin, covers in for Forshaw. So that's 3 players for 2 positions. Obviously, if Calvin leaves, then that'll be addressed as well. But for now, Mark Rocker looks like he's coming to Leeds. And I think that's a good bit of business for the money we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I think, the important thing is this guy was on such an upwards trajectory. Like he was, being touted maybe for an international call-up for the senior team. He was well thought of. I've seen many like, statos and people tweet about this guy back before he made his move to Bayern, just how, how much of a talent he was. And of course, even when he's gone to Bayern, Nagelsmann has only ever spoke well of him. And I think the only reason his game time has lacked is due to the fact that he's got Goretzka and Kimmich in front of him. Other than that, he probably would have played. So I don't think we're getting a Firpo-ish kind of transfer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And you're right to point out the fact that Bayern, he had about 4 or 5 players alongside him. There was like Sabitzer as well, and he couldn't get games either. So, Sabitzer was quality before he went to Bayern, but just because he hasn't played, it don't make him a bad player. So, the competition at Bayern, in their midfield especially, is ridiculous. So they're obviously quite happy to get rid. It's not worked out just simply due to the bodies at the club there. He'll move to Leeds thinking, I've got a chance of playing regular football here and get my career back on track. So for me, I'm excited about this one. I think it's a smart move by the club. It's a player, yes, he's unproven in the Premier League to a certain extent. Well, he is unproven in the Premier League, but he's a player of proven quality. So for me, 12 million or whatever it is we're paying there or thereabouts, it's smart business.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, what's important is what it's doing. It's improving the squad overall, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, we know the previous manager, Bielsa, turned water into wine in terms of what he was able to get out of certain individuals. And any other coach, apart from maybe your elites, are going to struggle to pull that out of players. So it's important you're bringing the right players to I guess, flesh out the full squad. We're going to speak about some more midfield links very, very soon. But it's important that we do have quality both on and off the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. And the sort of 5-sub rule, which is coming in next season, means like if we don't strengthen our squad and put numbers into that squad, we're going to be left behind. And, we just need that to be competitive and to give options off the bench. If a result ain't going your way, who's going to be the first manager who makes 5 half-time substitutions? Someone will do it.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing Mourinho used to do when 3 was first introduced. Someone will make 5. You know, it might be a little bit silly. You could pick up an injury later on in the game, but it's all about having options, isn't it? And getting more bodies into that squad and getting more sort of quality options to call upon.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, one quality, international level, bit of a god at Leeds United player that looks destined for exit is, of course, Calvin Phillips. What's your mood on the exit, James? See where my head's at with Calvin is because it's City, and I have no ill feeling towards City, and the fact that he'll be playing under Pep and he's gonna, play with the best players in the world, potentially play in Champions Leagues, maybe even win a Champions League, win a Premier League trophy. I look at Calvin and say, do you know what, son? Get on your bike, go do it. Do you know what I mean? Of course, I'd prefer him to do it at Leeds, but the fact that he's going there and we have no sort of negative ties to that football club, I'm happy for Calvin, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's probably the one move he makes with a sort of degree of blessing from Leeds fans. Yeah. Like you say, don't want him to go to Man United. That would be just a cardinal sin.
Yeah.
Liverpool, no. Chelsea, no. Arsenal, no thanks. Tottenham, you're thinking, well, maybe we could sort of match these teams in a few years, but City are on another plane altogether. And like you say, it's a short career. He's 26. If he doesn't take this chance now, it might never come his way again.
Yeah.
It's a dream move for him. And, if you're him, you're not going to turn that down. Leeds can't compete with those wages. Even if we give him a bumper salary, 100K a week, whatever has been sort of talked about in the past, we can't match what City will offer him. And the chance to play under Pep Guardiola, I mean, if there's one coach on a par with Bielsa or another coach who can make you an even better player, then Guardiola's the one. So, yeah, I think it's it'll break my heart to see him leave. And he's been one of my favourite players of the last, certainly since Bielsa's been in charge of Leeds. So for the last 4 years, really, he's been my favourite player, I would say. So to see him leave will be heartbreaking on one side, but on the other hand, got to say fair play to him.
Yeah, and I pick up on what you say about it's the perfect time. I look at, say, someone like Harry Kane who had that opportunity last summer. That's now gone because they've chosen to bring in Haaland, and Calvin has to look at that as well because maybe next season City said, you know what, he's maybe a little bit too old. Let's go for a Declan Rice. Let's throw all the cash at Declan. Let's go get Jude Bellingham from Dortmund or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So I agree with you in that standpoint. And in terms of, Pep and Bielsa having that same, on the flip side, it works for City in terms of bringing in Calvin because they know his personality is top draw. They know he's going to put in the work that's required to hit the dietary requirements and certain body fat levels and stuff that we know Pep does as well. So the transfer just seems seamless in a sense. It makes perfect sense for all parties. And look, if we're following certain models, we as Leeds fans have to accept that we are going to lose players that are of that top draw ability when the top 6 sides come knocking. The fee that's been mentioned, James, 45 to 50 million, is some of them are being touted. Anything less than 50, I'd be disappointed with. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I'm with you. And we mentioned Declan Rice as a yardstick. To me, Declan Rice is an elite midfielder. Yeah. I think if I'm being, objectively honest, I think he's a slight level above Calvin. I think he can do a little bit more with his game than Calvin can. However, if you're talking about David Moyes saying, I'm not letting Declan Rice leave for a penny less than 100 million and even 150 million, which is unrealistic, but you can see why he's saying that. He wants to put people off. So if you're talking 100 million for Declan Rice, and I think 50 million for Calvin is an absolute steal. And more realistically, even in the market and with 2 years left on his deal, I think we should be aiming for nearer 60.
Yeah.
And City have got that cash.
Yeah.
If Leeds say our price is 60, if you want him, pay it, then why not?
Yeah, exactly. When I see the 45, I'm like, it's mad because even just psychologically, if we got 49, I'd still be unhappy. Even if we got 50, it's just, I don't know, it's a magic 50, but anything less than 50 for me is just not acceptable for Calvin. But look, I put it out on socials. There's a lot of Leeds United fans that seem to think someone said it's fake news, he's not leaving. I'm like, no, I'm pretty certain. I mean, what kind of time frame do you give it, James? When do you think he'll?
Well, the sort of information we've seen is that City are preparing an offer. So, I mean, preparing an offer, it's all gobbledygook, isn't it? It's just like, hi Leeds, here's 50 million for Calvin, take it or what? So I know it's obviously a bit more to it than that, and there's contracts to be drawn up, that sort of thing. But we could be talking this time next week about Calvin no longer being a Leeds player. It could move quite quickly. Yeah,
it'll be a very, very sad day. But once he does moves, obviously, we have to look at replacements. We're going to touch on three midfielders in this next section. First of all, keeping with City is, of course, the links to Romeo Lavia. Look, I've not seen the lad play. I know from I watch a lot of content. I really enjoy fan media. I think it's right on the button at times. Some people that watch the game, go to games regularly and have opinions. And I know someone who's pretty knowledgeable in the game speaks very, very highly of Romeo Lavia, a season ticket holder at City, and a lot of their fans believed that he would get game time this season. The fact that they're going for Calvin makes you think they probably think he's not quite ready. I've seen Josh Hobbs of All Stats Aren't We fame speaking, so highly of him during watching a lot of him at under 23s level. How do you feel about this? I'm excited by this Romeo Lavia link. I don't know whether or not it'd be a permanent or would it be a loan. Do you think he could be used in a sense as a little bit of a sweetener to get the Calvin deal over the line?
Yeah, I think that's highly plausible, to be honest with you. Leeds have clearly got an interest. The Independent have talked about it, and a few other well-established newspapers have talked about it. So I think the interest is there. Belgium under-21 international. He comes, like you say, very highly rated, but I'm like you, I've not actually seen him play. He made one appearance for City last year in the Carabao Cup against Wickham. So his game time has been limited. You would think the signing of Calvin would further restrict that for him. So, City don't want to let him go. That's the sort of key issue here. But they could be tempted by a year, possibly a 2-year loan deal. Still only 18, 19. So, he comes to Leeds, he gets a little bit of experience, more than he would get at City. I'm not saying he'd be a regular in the Leeds team, but, minutes here and there is more than what he would probably get at City. It's a situation which probably would suit all parties, for Lavia, for Man City, and for Leeds as well. So it's one I'd like to see us push through, because what I've heard about him, what I've heard Pep say about him, it sounds like he's an exceptional young talent. So bring him in, let's get him.
Exactly. He's been likened to Fernandinho. They've made them comparisons at City, and I don't see it being a permanent deal, much like you. But let's say, for example, Calvin goes, we look at a replacement, i.e. we spend cash on that replacement, but then have Romeo Lavia on the bench. Like we spoke when we were talking about Mark Rocket, it's about improving the quality of the squad overall. And I hate to say, the likes of Shackleton and some of the other young lads that are on the bench that maybe, if we take sentiment out of it, we don't quite think they're going to make the grade. Someone like Romeo Lavia is going to make the grade and will be an improvement on that squad overhaul. And like you've mentioned, having 5 subs is important going into this season.
Yeah, without a doubt. And let's just bring him here. I mean, it's one of them things. A lot of loan deals contain clauses where clubs can review it after January if they feel he's not getting the minutes. Like, let's just bring him here. And if it's part of the Calvin deal and he's someone to get more bodies into our squad, let's do it. 18, he can get experience with the under 23s, if nothing else, as well for us. But I just think it's a no-brainer. I think it's one the club should look to push through.
Definitely, and Southampton are interested in him as well. Another midfielder that's been linked over the last 24 hours. I know a good friend of mine, Connor at One Leeds, is very, has a very high opinion of this player and really wants him brought in. Is of course Sander Berger, currently at Sheffield United. What are your thoughts on Berger and that being a potential signing? If I'm being honest, the links that I've seen, I've not seen like massively credible sources, just bits here and there. But thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would love to see him at Leeds. I think he's too big a talent to be in the Championship, and he made his name with Genk in Belgium and was like phenomenal for them, to the point where Jurgen Klopp was saying, "I'm going to sign you for Liverpool." that obviously never materialised, and he ended up surprisingly at the time at Sheffield United. And despite his best efforts, they went down, but he was still a great player for them. You know, sometimes you get that, don't you? You get one player who like seriously stands out. And he, for me, looked a very good player in a sort of struggling Sheffield United side last season, the year they went down, sorry. I've seen less of him in the Championship, I'll admit, but to me, the bits I have seen from him, he's got Champions League experience, of course, as well. I think it'd be a great signing. And if the money was right, I would more than welcome him at Leeds.
Yeah, I'm just looking now on Transfermarkt just to see what his current market value is. They're saying around 14 to 15 million on Transfermarkt. I've not, like I say, when I looked for this story, the only stories I could find was stuff like the links to Liverpool, etc., from way back when. So I was like, where's the source coming from? I know TeamTalk have done their own story, and as I forgot to mention at the start of the show, every single link that we discuss on here, the links to them articles are in the description from TeamTalk. But if the fee was between 15 to 20 million, would that be something you'd be happy paying for Sanderberg?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it seems like a fair price. Transfermarkt do undervalue players. They kind of look at it at a very sort of analytical point of view, and it almost like negates the fact that, you know, transfers between English clubs often come with a bit of a premium. So Transfermarkt do kind of, in a sense, undervalue. I think if they were to let him go, it'd be at least 20 million. They're like us, really, with Calvin. We're saying we want 50 for Calvin. I think they'd be saying, look, we signed him for like 22 million. We want our 22 million back. So I think they'd be looking at minimum 20 and more likely 25. There's a few doubts about his injury record. That's a few people have said to me on like Twitter, why do we want to sign him? He's got a terrible injury record. But I've looked into it. He missed like 12 games last season, which, okay, that's a fair chunk. But, you know, he's a combative central midfielder who puts himself about. He's not the first midfielder who's going to miss 12 games in a season. And, you know, how many did Calvin miss last year? How many did Forshaw miss over the last like 3 years? So, you know, there's a very small element of risk. He perhaps doesn't play as many games as some midfielders we've been linked with, but I think he's got the quality, and I think it'd be a really good signing for Leeds.
Yeah, and just like Terry F says in the comments, big shout out Terry. He says get Bergen, cheap, decent player, proven in the Premier League, and only 24-year-old as well, which is a great age, isn't it? To bring someone in. Another midfielder link that is my favourite of the trio is Tyler Adams, currently at Leipzig. Fabrizio Romano speaking, saying he is destined to leave and knows that Leeds United are interested. I did a video on this and I said the only way I've seen Tyler Adams coming in and us spending money on him would be if Calvin was to leave. At that point, I was still hoping and praying that Calvin was. Then obviously the news has broke on Calvin, so it looks like he is going to leave. Would Tyler Adams be someone and maybe the ideal replacement for Calvin?
Now, he's the one who ticks all the boxes, really, because Jesse obviously knows him well from his time at both Leipzig and before that, Tyler Adams played with him under New York City FC, New York Red Bulls. So, they've played, he's signed him twice. So he's obviously a player that Jesse Marsh knows extremely well. So you would think with Leipzig seemingly willing to let him go, once Fabrizio Romano says something, you know it carries a bit of credibility and a bit of weight. So I think that is the one Leeds would pursue if Calvin goes as a first port of call. Sanderberg might be someone they look at should Tyler Adams not work out. But I mean, look, we're turning into a bit of a USA national side, aren't we, in a sense? And it makes sense, you know, with the ownership. They're going to want these sort of flagship USA players. And a year's time, if we stay up, we could be, you know, looking at someone like Pulisic or something. It's not impossible. I know it seems far-fetched right now, but you know, I think they like the sort of USA brand we're building at the team, and Tyler Adams being very similar in the mould, I suppose, to Calvin Phillips would work very well there, you would think. And I think that's the one the club will pursue. Yeah,
and I think, you know, I know we're as football fans, and you know, we tend to not want to take these things into consideration. But if you think about, globally, what that would do for the football club in not just having, a star boy, Brendan Aronson, but then bringing in Tyler Adams alongside Jesse Marsh with the 49ers, what that would do, globally and in the States, just for selling football shirts and everything. Yeah. It's, these things are taken into consideration. And as a fan, I'm like, I understand it. Look, as being on YouTube, I can check analytics. When we had Bielsa, there was an increase from Argentina, Chile, and Spain. Now that we've got Jesse, I see an increase in people watching from the States. And I'm just on YouTube with, just under 12,000 subscribers. So think about a football club, what that would do in terms of if it's increased stuff for me, it's going to increase it 100 times over for the football club, and we know that Rads and stuff is into that sort of stuff as we've seen him giving, shirts out to Americans last season. Whether you agree or disagree with that's up to you. But I think it's worth, chatting about that and taking them things into consideration. If I was to push you out of them three, who would you see as being your number one target? I know you've mentioned the club's number one, but which one would you most like to see come in?
I think Tyler Adams for me, just because he's got that. He's been playing at the higher level for the longer time, whereas Sanderberg, he's like kind of dropped out, been in the Championship, hasn't he? So I think he's the one that the club would go for, and he's probably the one I would give the thumbs up to as well. Same,
it's the one I would opt for. I did put a poll out before the video started, so a lot of people have voted in that poll, and 68% have actually opted for Sanderberg. With just 17% for Tyler Adams and 15% for Romeo Lavia. So I think there's a lot of maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because Sanderberg's played in the Prem and maybe that's why a lot of people have opted for that. But I'm really interested to see how close Tyler and Romeo Lavia are, to be fair, in terms of the poll. That's quite surprising. But let's
just get them all. Let's get both.
Yeah.
I don't see, we're talking about two sort of, if we go in with the 4-2-2-2 that Jesse Marsh seems to prefer, or even if like some kind of variation on that with a bit more width, you're going to need two central midfielders in there, and then you're going to need bench options. So to me, it's not out of the extraordinary realms that we try and get in 4 central midfielders. For sure, we've got, he'll be okay, hopefully, for the start of the season. Rocker looks like he's coming in. That's only 2. So to me, and taking Calvin out the equation, I still think we need 2 more. Lavia probably would be one on the loan. And then for me, it's either one of Tyler Adams or Sanderberg.
Yeah, it looks that way at this moment in time. Another player that's set for exit is, of course, Rafinha. Now, I know there's a lot of people more so siding with the fact that they believe Rafinha's, staying. Barcelona are skint. Now, if people remember, I did a video a couple of weeks back after a Phil Hay article just discussing the Rafinha deal and whether or not Barcelona could afford him. And Phil put in this article about around about the 16th of June, there was due to be a meeting. Now, this meeting has actually gone ahead in the last 24 hours. Now, I'll just read you some quotes from that. So, Barcelona members have voted in favour of a 2-pronged financial fix that could allow them to enter the chase for Rafinha. Now, what this means is a General Assembly has got together and approved a pair of mechanisms that will allow Barcelona to raise an estimated 600 million euros. So delegate members who have been chosen by fans voted in favour of selling almost half of the club's retail arm at Barcelona and half of the merchandising and part of its TV rights revenue to raise the necessary cash to operate as they want in the summer transfer window. So basically, as we knew, as I said on that video, Barcelona by hook or by crook will get this money. And the fact that I think the vote was unanimous. I think there was only 63 people, I think, that said no to selling off all this stuff. So in other words, they know we need the cash, we need the players, so we're happy to sell our souls in a sense because, Barcelona back in the day were UNICEF sponsored, they were very, we're not about that kind of thing. And then obviously it switched and now their merchandising, their TV is basically all being sold off for a massive profit. That means they've got money. And this morning I've seen the Lewandowski links now gathering more pace again because we know he wants that move. So I believe, as we said last week, the only club that Rafinha plays at or leaves Leeds United for is Barcelona, and it looks with them doing this skullduggery that could happen.
Yeah, good word as well, skullduggery. They find a way, don't they?
Yeah.
They always have done. They find a way, and yeah, the finances have been crippled by COVID. Obviously, has hit the Spanish clubs hard. They tried to do this European Super League nonsense to generate their own revenue, but they find a way. They'll always find a way. And we said right from the start, if Barcelona want a player, 99 times out of 100, they get that player. They've got the names. The only thing they've lacked this time is the finance. Well, now they found a way to get the money. So it's just a question, again, of making sure Leeds, from a Leeds point of view, we hold out and get the money he's worth. Because, you know, I've seen all sorts of nonsense about Leeds lowering their asking price. No. If we're letting, he is the biggest asset Leeds United have ever had in their history in terms of the quality of player and what the modern market is and what he is worth. If he goes for a penny less than £60 million, we've shot ourselves in the foot there. And now Barcelona have that money, 600 million euros you mentioned. We're going to stand our ground here, or the club has to stand their ground. I don't want Victor Orta like rolling over and having his tummy tickled by Barcelona. This has got to be done on our terms. Our terms ideally would be to keep the player, but we can't keep the player. He's out of our league, and let's be honest, he deserves to be in the Champions League and pushing to win it.
100%.
So he goes to Barcelona. Like we're saying with Calvin, we can't stop these players. We can't stand in their way. But it has to be right for Leeds United, and Leeds United have every right to say minimum 60 million, and we don't want any of your cast-offs as part of the deal.
No, exactly.
It's straight cash deal only.
Yeah, and I just found the tweet as well. It's from Samuel Marsden, if anyone wants to check that out. And it was just 494 voting members were in favour and just 62 against in obviously doing this. So they understand. And a friend of the show, Kev, says, look, 25% of the TV rights plus extra will be made from player sales. We know that De Jong's linked to Manchester United, etc. So, you know, like we said, by hook or by crook, they will find the money. And so watch this space, Leeds United fans, on that Rafinha one. Now, Graham Smith's been put a few articles out today and responded to someone who tweeted to him and was asked about the Rafinha deal and whether or not he will be replaced, because I was of the thinking, for me, use that money to buy a striker because we don't need wingers. Now, Graham Smith did respond and says they are being told by the club that he will be replaced. He went on to say, I've wondered if it'll be a player who can also play centrally rather than an out-and-out winger. Width is always good to have as an option. And I guess we do have options with Jack Harrison, you know, maybe even Somerville. You know, there's others that can play out wide. I believe the majority of our width will come from our fullbacks this season. But what do you think about a direct replacement for Rafinha? Would you want an out-and-out winger, or would you agree with Graham in saying, let's look for someone who can play anywhere across, you know, behind the striker, for say?
Yeah, it's really difficult because it depends who they would go for. They've been linked with a few names over the years, and the one that I always refer back to is Noah Lang. And the fact we've seen Victor Orta go out to Belgium, and, you know, Noah Lang plays for Club Brugge. Perhaps there's something in that, I don't know. And I know that I can understand why people don't want Noah Lang because of some of the sort of things he's done off the field and what he's said about, you know, a certain religion, and like a large majority of our fan base are of that religion. So it's probably a very risky signing, and I can understand people who are very sort of hesitant about that. But he, to me, is one of the few players out there who's within a price bracket we can afford and does have the quality to potentially replace Rafa. So, yeah, potentially him. I'm not sure who else they might go for, unless they can unearth another unbelievable diamond. But these players just don't really generally exist.
No, they don't. But we have been linked to two wide players over the last week or so. Robbie Mutondo. I don't know an awful lot, you know, about him myself, but I think also Nottingham Forest and Brentford could be keen on Mutondo. What are your thoughts on him?
It doesn't fill me with much excitement, to be honest. No. His record, 11 caps for Wales and no goals. He went to Schalke for a sizable fee, 11 million from Man City. And he was another one highly rated by the City Academy and sort of on the brink of their first team when he left. But he's not really done it in Germany, and they've farmed him out. And, you know, he's found a bit of form. They've loaned him out to Cercle Bruges, where he's done all right, actually. He's done okay. But the Belgium League, I'm sort of contradicting myself because I've talked up Noah Lang's stats in the Belgium League. But this Robbie Mutondo, it's just not one that really excites me. And I think if we were signing him, why sign him when we've got, say, Somerville? It's almost like a player who doesn't really add much more to what we've got. And I think if we are to sign a winger, it's got to be someone of top quality.
It does. And do you think, and we'll move on to the next story, do you think that player with top quality is Adama Traore? I've seen a number of people mention him in the chat as well. I personally think he's Dan James on steroids, but I don't know what your thoughts, because I noticed you did, you put out an article earlier on in the week about Adama. I think, is it just the Victor Orta stuff, taking him to Borough? What do you reckon?
Yeah, possibly so. So this was a TeamTalk exclusive. We have a transfer correspondent, Graham Bailey, if you were to follow him on Twitter, who's got a lot. I've worked with Graham for a long, long time. We worked together at Sky Sports for about 10 years. So I know Graham really, really well. And he's got a massive contacts book. He knows loads of players, loads of agents, and a few directors of football, not naming names, not to give anything away. Mm-hmm. But he knows for a fact that Victor Orta loves Adama Traore. And, I can understand people being really reluctant about the potential of Leeds signing him, because he doesn't excite me either. He's got no end product. He's ridiculously fast, super strong. But how many times do you see him sort of run to the byline with the ball and then just cross it into empty space? So, but then there's a part of me that thinks he had that one exceptional year at Wolves where all of a sudden Wolves were like, yeah, we've got a 50 million player, and Barcelona want to sign him and Liverpool want to sign him. And, but one good season for me doesn't make him, I don't know. But it's one that I could see happening just because of the Victor Orta connection. I could genuinely see that happen. Yeah. And when Graham Bailey tells us something, it's with good reason. It's not just plucked out of the air. He will have been told something. Yeah. So it's with good reason. And that story obviously created a bit of a wave on TeamTalk this week, more negative than positive. But I did tweet the story out, and the comments were just brilliant. They were just like oiled up Dan James and Dan James on steroids, like you've said, and just there were some like comical descriptions of him, and I can understand why people aren't keen. Yeah, but it's one that with Victor Orta, it does tick a lot of boxes.
Yeah, it does. It does. I understand. I mean, I would be underwhelmed if I'm honest, but I believe isn't he entering his final year of his contract? He could go for a cut down price. We were actually asked on the midweek fix show by someone, a Wolves fan, who said, look, you could get him for as little as 20 million, and that was from a Wolves fan. And I don't know. I'm not too keen. And if Rafinha was to go and then Traore was the replacement as the marquee name, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know. We literally would have the biggest built winger with no end product and the smallest built winger with no end product. Do you know what I mean? It would be it wouldn't be the best.
Adama Traore would eat Dan James for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe if you put them together, you might get a player.
Yeah, you might get the perfect winger. Yeah, teach each other something. I'm like you. I'd be underwhelmed if we signed him. It's just not one that particularly excites, and his stats aren't great. And he went to Barcelona and he did all right there, a couple of assists in 11 or 12 games, but they've had the option to buy him and have said no thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not one that fills me with too much excitement.
Definitely not. Now, moving on, obviously, we'll move into the forward positions. This one yesterday broke. Cali Mwendo from Paris Saint-Germain. I'm going to call him Cali I did a bit of research, and his previous coach at Lens had called him Cali, so I was like, right, it's acceptable. He's one that's at PSG. He's been on loan for the last 2 seasons at Lens, has a good goal-scoring record, well thought of for the under-21s at Paris as well. At the French national side. He wants game time. He seems to have ambition. That's why he moved, on loan to Lens in the first place, as opposed to sitting on the bench. It's one that really excites me, and I believe, sources saying that Leeds United maybe have already put a bid in, but, it's going to be complicated due to add-ons, etc. And they apparently want a buyback clause. But what are your thoughts on the Cali link?
I like it. I think I've seen a bit of him play, admittedly YouTube and things, not so much live, but he looks like a really good prospect. And like you say, highly rated by the French under-21 team. He's got 4 in 12 for France under-21s, which sits exactly with his sort of record for Lens last season, which is 1 in 3. So I think he'd be an excellent player to bring to Leeds. Backup striker, young, hungry, quick, plays as centre forward, but can also play out wide if necessary. Yeah. And he's just got that versatility. And, even with these buyback clause things, right, these are quite common for big teams to do that. I know Chelsea have done it with a few of their players. They did it with Tammy Abraham when he's gone to Roma. So it's not out of the question that they think, right, we ain't got a place for you in our team now, but in 2 years' time, let's get a buyback clause in that deal. Yeah. And as long as that price is acceptable to Leeds, whereby we make a future profit on it, then get it done. If that's a player, if Jesse Marsh wants him, if Victor Orta likes him, and if they feel he can play back up to Patrick Bamford, perhaps challenge Patrick Bamford and cover for a Bamford if and when he's injured again. God, I hope not. But you have to be prepared for these eventualities. And we lacked so desperately up front last season. It was just painful watching Dan James struggle there last year. So we clearly do need someone. So the talk of the bid is like 20 million euros, 17 million pounds. That to me, if agree. The terms are right, then just get it done. Absolutely get it done. 1 in 3 strikers for 17 million pounds. That's a great bit of business.
Yeah, I agree. We were discussing this on the midweek fix on Wednesday, saying I was of the opinion that I want a proven striker, a proven Premier League striker. And then you think about what players would actually be available to Leeds, proven Premier League strikers. You're looking at Chris Wood, I don't know, maybe Shea Adams, Danny Ings. Who else would Leeds United be able to get that's proven Premier League striker that'll be available? They're quite hard to find, aren't they? Do you know what I mean?
Very.
It's mad because and anyone that's going for say 50, he's not coming to Leeds United. He's going to a top side. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. So strikers are definitely hard to come by.
Yeah. You're exactly right. You've hit the nail on the head with that. And I wouldn't even want Chris Wood anyway. I'd much rather sign this kid. Danny Ings is an interesting one. He'd be someone I'd quite like at Leeds, but why would Villa sell him to us? We're potentially going to be side by side in the table. They obviously want backup and quality themselves, so they're just not going to sell him. They're hard to find. These strikers are at a premium. And like you've mentioned, if they are available, then especially from a Premier League team and they're proven, you're talking 40, 50 million easy. So go and sign this player. I think it's a no-brainer really for me.
I agree. We've also been linked to Eric Bothheim. Again, I think Southampton. I think us and Southampton seem to be copying players, probably following that Red Bull model, having both ex-Red Bull managers there. But again, I don't know much about Eric Bothheim. What about yourself?
Well, I've just from what I've read, really, not seen him play, but he comes relatively highly rated. He was doing ridiculous things for Bodo Glimt in the Norwegian league last season. Finished the season with a really good goal scoring record and earned an 8 million move to Krasnodar in the Russian league. And it all seemed to be going well until the Russian invasion on Ukraine. And then because of the sanctions imposed on Russian clubs, he's now a free agent. So, if you're talking an £8 million strike and you can get him on a free, then you can understand why his agent is trying to hook him up with a new club as soon as possible. And
yeah,
you know, all these agents, they want their players in the Premier League because that's where the money is at. I'm not sure how creditable the sort of sources saying Leeds are in for him. And I don't know. Perhaps he's one we could look at if the other targets didn't land.
For sure. Breaking news as well while we're live, mate. Someone's just shared me this on Twitter. I think it was Helen, so a big shout out for that. Let me just take off this this thing. So breaking news as we are speaking, Mr. Mark Roca, has entered the building. He is at Leeds United, so it looks like that one will be done today. I think they're just signing a fan shirt and probably taking a few pictures. But Mark Roca, medical done, probably will be having his pictures taken for when that's announced. So yeah, breaking news. That one has been completed. He's in the door. You've
got to love our fans. They're sort of on it so quickly. But once you see that player at Ellen Road, it's done because the medical's already gone through.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been passed. They do that at Thorpe Arch, and then they bring him down to Ellen Road for the publicity shots.
Yeah.
The scarf inside the ground, like we saw last week with Christensen. So that looks like, it's a done deal. It's just 5 o'clock announcement again, Leeds, maybe. They did it the same with Christensen. So, yeah.
It looks that way. So that's really exciting. Thank you, Helen, for tagging myself and James in that as well. So that's it for the links that we've discussed. As I remember, told you at the start. Sorry, folks. All the links to them stories are in the description. If you want to check them out, please do. If you're new to the channel, do subscribe as well. We're less than 100 people away from 12k, so smash that like. Now, we've had a couple of comments coming in. Christopher Junction, just with the praise, says, loving the team today, Joe. Thoughtful and incisive, so thank you for that. And James is bringing the thoughtfulness and the incisiveness.
You too kind.
Zach asks, and I've seen this mentioned a lot, and I haven't done a video on it because I just think it's codswallop, but he's asked me my opinion on Nathan Collins. Now, I'm not for 1 second saying Nathan Collins is a bad player, but every time I see us linked to a centre-back, I go, we are not getting a centre-back. We have it. That, for me, James, the one area of the pitch, Leeds United, I even seen Phil Jones yesterday, by the way. The one area of the pitch that Leeds United are comfortable and stacked in, for me, is centre-back.
Yes, we've got 4, and that covers 2 positions. Presumably we play like 4 at the back. So that it's just like, I'm with you. It's the one position we're covered for. Robin Koch was unlucky not to get more game time there last season. You know, we've got Pascal Strauch who can cover for Liam Cooper, and we've got Llorente as well. I know he had a really sort of disappointing season, but there's still a quality player there, and hopefully he can improve this coming season. But we don't need a centre half. No. To answer the Nathan Collins question, though, I did see him score an absolute worldie of a goal this week. It was incredible. I didn't know he had that in his locker. That surprised me. But I can't get excited by that one, if I'm honest.
And another one that's not a specific player, but another one that seems to keep doing the rounds, but really is frustrating for me, is another right back. Like, we keep being linked to right backs, and I'm like, we have just acquired a right back, and everyone says to me, yeah, but you can play left back. I'm like, just buy a left back. Like, why are we going for a right back that can play left back? I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I've seen many links to right backs. I don't know why. It must be agent talk. Surely we don't need another right back now, do we?
No, definitely not. We've obviously got Rasmus coming in. He covers for Luke Ayling, who's out till around about October. So hopefully we'll get Ayling back after that, pushing for his place. Jury's still out on Cody Drama. We're not sure where his future lies, but when he's come in, he's shown a lot of promise, and of course did really well at Cardiff. And Jesse has said he wants to take a look at him in pre-season. That'll be to assess him as a footballer, but his attitude as well. Because I know Bielsa got a little bit upset by the fact he pushed so hard for that move, and Bielsa just said, if you want to go, just go. And gave him a bit of short shrift after that. So, we're well covered for right backs. It'd be nonsense us making a move for another one. But in terms of a left back, just let's bring a left back in, please.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do that. In terms of everything that we've discussed today, then, James, just to round off, What do you think's most likely to happen between now and next week's show? Where's your head at? What will have happened at Leeds United apart from Matt Rocker being done? Because that's done.
Matt Rocker's done. So after that, I think we'll see a bit of progress with the Calvin Phillips departure. Man City are stepping up that chase, and I think that will kickstart quite a lot of business for Leeds. Yeah. Once he's out the door, Leeds will obviously be sort of bringing in replacements. But one thing I'd like Leeds to do, and I'm using this sort of Jack Grealish model last season. When Villa sold Jack Grealish, they were really clever about it because they made sure they got all their business done before Grealish was sold. They bought Buendia, they bought Danny Ings, they bought Leon Bailey. I can't remember who came sort of before that as well, but they've made 3 real big quality signings, and then Grealish was allowed to leave. And that's a smart way to do things because it tells sort of selling clubs know, hang on a minute, you've got like 50 million here for Calvin Phillips. I know it's not a secret and that sort of thing, but just get the business done first. Yeah, I think it just makes your life a bit easier. It's like, in a way, if you've got a job, finding another job is easier. Yeah. If you've got these midfielders on the books, I just think it's a good business move by Leeds to get the signings in before Phillips is allowed to leave. But I don't think it'll be that way. I think Phillips will go, and that'll kickstart quite a lot of business for Leeds. Yeah.
I do think Leeds will. It seems to me, just even with the Tyler Adams stuff, the fact that Fab says Leeds are interested in that, I think they're doing their due diligence. They're speaking to players. And then obviously when Calvin makes that move, like you say, it'll then be, we might see a flurry of business because not only will we have the money we were willing to spend, we'll then also have a fresh, cash injection. And regardless of what people's thoughts are with Calvin and Rafinha leaving, as a window so far, and I'm even seeing in the chat, opposing fans of other clubs saying that Leeds United are going about it the right way this time. And I've been really enthused and impressed with the way that we're managing this window so far, James. Yeah,
I think that's a fair point because we were so close to going down last year. And the board, it would have if we'd have gone down, that would have been 95% on the board for not bringing in players. And there's this and that about Bielsa not wanting extra players. And they could have taken control of that situation and just brought in the extra bodies. Yeah, and just said to Bielsa, look, there's extra bodies here, play them or don't play them. But as it went, Bielsa went by the end of February, so it didn't do Jesse Marsh any favours not having the extra bodies on board. So, had we gone down last year, it would have all been on the board for me, 95% on the board. And, they've learnt that lesson. They've learnt you can't do it on the cheap in this league. There's enough money coming in through the television rights, the added gate receipts. And, if you push on far enough, you get into Europe, which brings it extra revenue as well. So the rewards are there, but you can't take Leeds gambled last year and it so nearly cost them. Yeah. So it's good to see they are doing the right thing now and getting the bodies in, getting the players in, making important signings and strengthening so far in the areas of weakness.
Yeah, for sure. I think Calvin replacement, striker, and I'd like a left back. I'm not sure the club will do it. A lot of people mentioning Jack Harrison could potentially play there. That could be an option as a left wing back, perhaps. We'll have to wait and see. But what areas do you reckon, James, before we finish up?
Left back, 100%. I would kill for a new left back. I think, as a lot of people say, Junior Firpo will get better in his second season. That might well be the case. But for me, he's not good enough, full stop. And I think just bring in, I saw someone mention to me, let's get Zinchenko in as part of the Calvin Phillips deal. That would be a dream scenario for me, but he ain't going to come to Leeds. No, he'll see Leeds below him. I think he's a Champions League level player, but top quality left back. There are players out there. I referred last week to Mark Cucurella at Brighton. Yeah. They signed him for £15.5 million from Getafe. Now, I've got a problem with Orta not doing that business for Leeds and spending like 14 million instead on Junior Firpo. I think he got that so badly wrong. But, there are players out there. There are players out there. You can't sign Cucurella now. You're talking about a £50 million. 50 million.
It looks like
player.
It looks like City will do their business, very quickly. Calvin, Cucurella and Haaland building another...
Well, the thing is, the window's sort of officially open now, and clubs, when the season ends, they very quickly go on holiday. Pep will have had his 2.5-3 week break, and they're back now. They're back at their office, back at the desk. They're consulting with their directors of the football. Tiggy Bergstein at Man City, he's at work, and they're setting the wheels in motion. So the fact that they're sort of moving for Cucurella suggests an official Calvin bid will be imminent.
Yeah, definitely looks that way, doesn't it, mate? And, I'm just seeing an article on Twitter by Baron Cross, but it's an interesting point. He says, look, it was the 6th of July last year before Leeds brought a senior edition in, and it's now just the 17th of June, and we're about to acquire our third signing already. So it's great to see. And a quick question for you, because I've seen that a lot of people are asking this. Russ has said, are we in for another goalkeeper?
Yeah, good question. And I would not be surprised if we did that. Ben Foster we talked about last week, and I think that would make a lot of sense, really. Keep Meslier on his toes, and just someone who can guide him and give a little bit of advice and the arm round his shoulder when things didn't quite go so well for him last year. So I just think Ben Foster would tick a lot of boxes for me. Yeah. He's experienced. I know he's 39. People say it's too old, but he's just completed a season in the Premier League as a number one, where he's pretty much played 75% of their games. So he ain't too old, and he said he's happy to be a number two. So I think Leeds would be wise to bring in a new goalkeeper to make Meslier even better.
Yeah, I think he needs that added pressure as well, right? He needs that. And look, I mean, God forbid, but if Meslier did get injured in the first week of the season, I wouldn't want to, play the rest of the season with Christopher Claesen in goal. It's just where my head's at. We can't run that risk, I don't think. Anything else you would like to add, James, before we sign off? Anything you want to discuss?
No, just obviously with TeamTalk, please check out our website. We've got lots of exclusives coming through with it being the summer window. We've got quite a lot of contacts in the game, expert advice, expert opinions, and that sort of thing. And, what we've started doing as well is putting our opinion into these transfer pieces as well. So if we receive a bit of news, we might take a link, this player have been linked with Leeds. We'll talk about why is he a good signing for Leeds, or why will he not work, that sort of thing. So, please check out our website. Follow us on Twitter. We're on across all social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as well. Myself, I'm on Twitter too. And please check us out.
Make sure you do. Make sure you check out TeamTalk. The links to all today's article are in the description. So all you need to do is click one of them, and then there you go. You're straight through to their website. So make sure you check it out, and check out James on Twitter as well, at Marshy Leeds, I believe, off the top of my head. Is that right, James?
That's right. Thank you.
I got it right. There you go. I got it right. Thank you, as always, for watching. Like the video on the way out. And if you are new, please do subscribe. As I say, we're less than 100 people away from 12,000 subscribers. We will be back next Friday discussing all the latest news. As for myself over the weekend, unless any news breaks, I'll be having a nice weekend off. But like's been happening nearly every single day, news has been breaking on the Leeds United front, because it is transfer season and it is silly season, but it's what we love. I love it anyway. I don't know about it. Some people get annoyed by it, but I enjoy it. So thank you as always for watching, and we shall